at the World Championship or being utterly destroyed. We're already in the draft for game number 5.
Yeah, last year's World finalists and last year's World semi-finalists as well, fighting up for one last chance to compete this year. The Ashe does get its way through the draft and is first picked by Weibo.
Ashe, Renekton, Ivern, all up and available. JDG are going to go towards the Zeri. The Smolder and the Corki already banned away, so does this mean, with the Tristana also gone, that we're going to have to dig a little bit deeper for Xiaohu? Ivern, again, still on my mind.
Yeah, I think Ivern and Rel, those are the two which I really want to see. The Rel's being hovered right now, but Ivern has dominated this series. Maybe the series isn't red side and blue side, might just be green side instead. So many powerful champions left up and available.
Love to see if they are just going to go for these premier picks that we've seen, although I will say JDG playing with fire here with that Renekton, see if it doesn't remain impactful. Love the Rel lock-in for Weibo.
I suppose my question is, there's quite a few junglers up. There's not quite as many ADs up, and you already know what the top side matchup is. I wonder if this is not going to be an AD mid game for Xiaohu. Unless we're going to dig, dare I say, towards something like the Yone. But like,
just bringing everything out of the woodwork here.
You know, like it's going to have to be quite a deep pick. So I think seeing Breathe here on the Cassante, just to answer out the top side and just see where JDG go with the draft, makes a lot more sense. It's a lot more of a safer option to go towards.
And I think we've not really seen that much tanky top lane play. This will be a difference between things. And I think changing up the flavor for game 5 could be quite important.
Yeah, and you also have to remember, again, reactionary play has kind of been king in a lot of these team fights, right? It's about making sure you can defend the first initial engage and then make that turnaround happen. Cassante is potentially one of, if not the best champions in the game at doing that.
And it's been something we've seen banned out, right? It's something that these teams don't really necessarily want to deal with, but as we get in game 5, things start slipping through. Speaking of, the Misfortune going to be there yet again for Ruler.
So now my worry is for Weibo, looking at JDG's champions. Zeri, good early laner, and a lot of those mid lane picks are gone. Strong bot lane laning phase in MF, and very strong laning from Renekton in that early game. This is already very good early game comp from JDG.
JDG don't want Tarzan on the carries. I think that Weibo should just ban Ivern and ban Maokai. I think just get them both gone and put yourselves on different junglers. I think whilst the trade would be interesting to see, with JDG having the first, you know, pick here on red side out of this next pick phase, I think you just have to get them both gone. Still though, they're paying respect to missing Rakan. You can't really blame them.
Yeah, and I suppose the double duty of banning the Rakan is that Rakan is very good in laning phase. If you want to fight back in laning phase and put Missing onto something a little bit more passive and see if you can force it to, I don't know, an Alistar instead, maybe it gives you a bit more of a platform in the early game. Again, so many factors at play.
Yeah, I do also suppose the Rakan, in comparison to all the other support picks we've seen, snap engages so much faster than basically everything with the exception of the Rel.
JDG gonna ban away the Azir from Xiaohu. Love to see it.
But this is the call out. Remember, like Zeri's picked, Tristana and Lucian have been banned by JDG. Corki and Smolder are moved away by Weibo. Xiaohu has to genuinely dig very deep into his champion pool to actually find something that's gonna work here for Weibo. And Azir fits that profile so well again of that reactionary play.
Leona banned away. Ivern still up and available, could be locked in for either team at this point. Has been so dominant in this series, but we've had a lot of focus on our lanes instead.
It's gotta be, like, you've got counter pick support, sure, but is it worth giving up Ivern?
It's hard. It's really hard.
I
mean,
understand
Missing has been really good on some of these picks.
Yeah, but he was going to get the Alistar regardless, right? So let's see if we were on the same wavelength, right? If they think that the Ivern or the Maokai, well, no, forget the Maokai, the Ivern is the king here.
Isn't it so fitting? In a game number 5, the General Kanavi getting the counter pick here possible for JDG, a guy who has literally been the pillar of this organization.
Yeah, and the two junglers giving that counter pick over to other tier players which grew up on that Griffin roster together. That Yone being
highlighted it. Let's go.
Xiaohu going towards the Yone. He's been criticized on the pick before, but none of that has to matter. It is a best of 1. If Xiaohu shows up well here in this game, it doesn't have to matter at all.
Go Ivern. Buff up your 3 melee champions.
Absolutely.
Keep Ashe alive. It just makes the most sense. I also don't mind Maokai now that you have Yone, because the slow rolling engage can actually set up Yone to have very easy to hit ultimates. Everybody clumps up to defend each other from that Maokai ultimate, so now this is looking like a much better composition for Tarzan, but it has to be Ivern on the return for Kanavi.
Weibo, multiple engage options now. The Yone, the Rel, the Ashe, the Maokai, all very helpful. Talked about this pick on the other side. With all of those engage options on the other side, having the Alistar and the Ivern to help, again, absorb that engage like we've seen earlier in the series could be oh so critical. It's locked in. Ivern, we call it right from the start. It could just be the pick JDG need.
And as we see the lock in here, I mean, coaches have to step away and hope that their players can represent their organizations as best as possible. I love that we've gotten the culmination of the meta we've seen in this best of 5 really play out in this game number 5, and especially all those go buttons you were talking about for Weibo.
First time in this series we have something that's on ADC in mid lane. Off my head.
I mean,
Xiaohu's still an AD carry, I suppose, in some ways. But again, now with Weibo having this engage option through Xiaohu as well, is going to be able to take things into his own hands. So many times have we seen overextensions in this series. A fate sealed, so fittingly named to potentially make those turnarounds happen, could be huge for Weibo.
This is such a perfect end to this series. 4 games of back and forth, different heroes being built up. Our carries we have known so much on international stage and regional alike have all turned up to play. One last game to determine our 4th seed from the LPL.
One game remains in the LPL 2024 season. All the heartbreak, all the trials, the tribulations, all the veterancy of these two teams come down to one single game. It's either absolute elation or devastation for these two extreme pillars of the LPL. JDG wanting to redeem themselves after not making it to MSI, after trying so hard to make this summer split about them, and Weibo, the Weibo that always seems to find something out of nothing, that went 7 games in a row losing, and now finds himself 1 game away. Game 5 delivers everything, and here we go.
The curse, I'm sure, looming oh so slightly, if not over the JDG players, and certainly the fans. Struggled for quite some time to topple Weibo. Game 5 to make it to Worlds.
Weibo world finalists from last year. JDG, Golden Road hopefuls and world semi-finalists from last year. One of these teams goes forwards into another world championship. This is the bar to pass in the LPL. You have to fight against MSI champions, world champions, storied players. There is no easy road to the internationals.
There's a lane swap going on. Ruler and Missing are on the top side of the map. They don't want standard lanes by the looks of things, or at the very least, they want to shake things up. It's been standard lanes all series long. Ivern, again, we saw how well JDG... Oh, no, over the... No.
Oh. Okay.
Did any of them see the wolf?
No,
There's pings coming down, they know now.
Missing coming over. Tarzan needs to be very careful. Just get out of here as the headbutt will come through. Kanavi is going to take an aggressive stance on this Ivern. Tarzan actually stepped back into it to try to get this one away.
Okay.
But Kanavi claims it.
Yeah, so Kanavi's already marked the blue buff, smites away the wolves just to make sure that Tarzan can't just immediately hit level 2. And now the lane swap itself can ensue Breathe, and is going to be bullied out here by Flandre.
Game 5, again, 1 game to determine who goes to Worlds, and JDG pull out something we haven't seen from them in this series. Going for the full lane swap, Missing, making sure that the melee champion of the Yone can't walk up to the wave. Yone really struggles with that, without that E later on.
Wow, okay, so JDG are going to allow Light and Crisp complete free roam down here on the bottom side. And they're just going to try and keep Xiaohu and Flandre down. Flandre's made his way down now to the bottom side of the map. Let's see exactly how things unfold here. Again, JDG opting to allow Light to have the free time down here to hit this bottom side tower.
Yeah, we're switching that up, making sure that JDG trying to make sure that Weibo caught a little bit off guard. This is where the veterancy matters so much. Weibo, so many veterans, JDG no strangers to that as well. Weibo, it's a bit of a curveball thrown at them. Can they catch it?
And we've seen so many of these across multiple regions. I mean, even across all the professional regions. But exactly, what are you trying to attempt here? What are you trying to claim here, trying to catch people up?
Very, very unique in Missing, hovering around the mid lane to kind of keep mid lane priority confirmed here. I suppose maybe an adaptation because Ivern is obviously a very unique champion in these lane swap scenarios.
A lot of the time you're looking for top lane XP advantage in lane swaps, and actually a very interesting part of that, if you look down the minimap just before this, Breathe did something I've not seen in a lane swap like this before. He hovered mid lane as well. He got some XP from there. Yes, it means that Xiaohu misses a little bit too, but it does mean that Breathe hits level 2, can maybe get towards this turret again. We'll see, it's still dangerous. He doesn't have info.
Everything kind of gets evened out in some ways or another, right? I guess the big ramifications are going to be around, grub timers, second grub timers particularly at the level 6 mark. And we'll see exactly who's going to end up on those level 6 points earlier than their lane opponents.
And going back to a little bit of the story that we highlighted at the beginning of the series that's kind of fallen out of relevancy is that Breathe was literally the world's ticket merchant for WE back in 2021, trying to redeem himself here as well.
Now he's been put under a lot of pressure. Saw that little graphic on the side there was highlighting the XP, and we talked about that top lane XP being very important. Both Breathe and Flandre will be slightly behind the other members in this game. Their job will become a little bit harder from that in an all-important match.
We're getting into the structure of things here. Obviously, these objectives going to be super important to think about as well. Dragon taking a little bit of a back seat in this series so far. But another big thing is we aren't seeing the consistent style we've seen for the other 4 games in this series itself, and trying to play a little bit topsy-turvy here, but we will finally return to normalcy.
So, standard lanes, XP advantage slightly in favor of Flandre in that top lane. We said that's very important, but I don't think it's anything completely out of proportion. I think Breathe managed to recover enough to be able to lane him. We do see that the cull was picked up from Ruler as well. He gets some gold from the first push on that turret in the first waves, comes back to lane and wants to hit his first item spikes quicker. Much like that last game, the first item spike will be so important for JDG. For me, JDG must hit that power spike and hit it well. It's not like the other team can't fight back though. They have an Ashe, they have a Yone. There's multiple engage options they can have to try and slap back.
And this is the thing now in this game compared to almost every other game with the exception of maybe game 1. It feels like one team wants to go in and the other team wants to stand their ground and turn, right? I mean, in the case, of course, of Weibo, they can kind of do both, but when you have Yone as missing, just uses the Ignite as a bit of a dismissive tool for Crisp, it does make you really feel like Weibo want to be the proactive ones here as Kanavi, shadowing, and so is Tarzan on this bottom side.
The crux of this series has felt like it relies between these 2 3v3s between the teams itself. Love to see them hovering over this bot side. Kanavi has made his way around, finally seeing his long legs walk into the bush.
So no one's really made that game-breaking play right now. You look at the gold, largely very even. The XP, yes, there have been some discrepancies from that early game. This is quite important here for Flandre because he does have that slight lead and has been using it well. He can walk beyond the tower, use Demolish, get some extra gold. Flandre been such an important player for JDG, I think, over the last 2 series he's played. We were wondering whether he'd start over Sheer. I think Flandre has massively earned his place here on the roster over the last couple of series. If you can get an advantage, keep using that Demolish on tower, get ahead of the Cassante. Because of this lane swap in part, it could be so valuable for JDG's hopes at a world appearance.
And that's just what you want to do in this matchup as well. And Flandre stepping up so much since he's been here. This kind of big lead where he just gets to continually farm these plates in front of Reeves' face because of this deficit could be absolutely massive for him, because I feel like, to me, on the Weibo side of things, it's only really going to be Xiaohu later on who maybe has an opportunity at like straight up 1v1ing him on the side lane unless Flandre really oversteps against Breathe.
And I love that you bring up Weibo as well. If you follow this team over the last year, I mean, you know the slogan, consistently inconsistent. But again, I love the new adaptation of that, of every Weibo has its day, because we have seen them rise to the highest heights. I mean, they made it to finals, and it was such a shock to see those performances.
And I'm just really glad that both of these teams have showed us something to be proud about in this series. They've shown some great gameplay. So Ward drops out the brush. Won't be spotting anything there, but both these teams showing us some real high-level gameplay at parts through this series. They will be joining, of course, the 3 other LPL teams going to the internationals. It is always a responsibility, a burden, and an honor to represent this region. I think whoever goes across it will have well and truly earned it.
That's what the Gauntlet represents, sending our best teams to Worlds to represent the LPL. And this Weibo team trying to make their best self in summer as well when they brought in Breathe and Tarzan, a big influence, especially in the early parts of the season for them. But now maybe needing to come up clutch when it matters most. JDG themselves, I mean, you could look at all their disappointment in their off-season content, all the stuff that they were posting on Weibo as well. It was a detriment that they weren't able to make it to an international, and here backs up against the wall to try to make it to that.
Yeah, I'm very curious about what our junglers are doing here. Tarzan's on the bottom side.
Level 6.
They know he's down there. He's got that level 6. Engage from Crisp. Re-engage from Missing!
Back. Crisp goes under tower, but the whole time Crisp goes down. First Blood goes over to JDG, immediately responded. Both Light and Ruler getting some gold.
Ruler and Missing 2v3 in the bot side. That was meant to be a power play from Weibo, but it doesn't quite work out that way. And giving a kill over to Ruler on the Misfortune, I think, is exactly the opposite of what Weibo would have wanted, even though they give a kill themselves over onto Light's Ashe.
Oh, Yagao actually trying to get the slow of the Ultra Shock Laser there on the Xiaohu. He might have been in a lot of trouble there. Oh, we're going to get the 1v1. Get a little bit of gold. They get a little antsy down here in the fight, but we are going to look back at the top side of the map here as we're going to get resets.
Yeah, Kanavi is going to steal away this blue buff. I was wondering if he was actually just going to cross map the bottom side play to begin with, but instead just getting cancelled.
Well, this is why it's so huge that Ruler and Missing, players of last year who were so impressive internationally, get that outplay. It means that Kanavi doesn't have to be bot side and go top side, and Flandre can keep getting plates on that top lane tower as well. Xiaohu's away.
That's a fade sealed out and defensive. That's not what you want to see from the Yone early, but he still just doesn't have the power spike to be meaningful. That ward is actually going to provide a ton of information as Missing just goes straight in. Crispy's going to have to crash out. He's getting slowed, though, as Xiaohu does disrupt JDG from going forward.
Yeah, but while all this is happening, Weibo heavily focusing on this bot side. Kanavi does come down to that this time. We've got this isolated matchup in top lane as well. It's not going that badly right now, but every time that the focus is away from this top lane, I'm just worried that Flandre can walk up, demolish proc the tower yet again, and get into a real power spike himself on the Renekton. As we look back in a replay here, oh my word, we got the cinema.
Missing's reaction is just incredible. Knows that they've got the opportunity to make this happen, make it rain bullet time. Chris just doesn't have enough HP to survive. Kill trade is there, and I suppose at the very least it's AD for AD, but still, a 2v3 play where it's a 1-for-1 is definitely a positive for JDG.
Again, the 1-for-1 on the 2v3, the weak side, while you also have a Cull as well stacking in. This is all good stuff for JDG's bot laner.
We are going to look at about 45 seconds till the next spawn of Grubs. Now, JDG were able to secure the first 3 there, obviously with that trade of the Dragon. But we've seen 6 Grubs be pretty important in this series.
Absolutely, and JDG getting the first 3 is already very good for them. We know that, of course, the Renekton can hit tower quite effectively. Yone himself, if he gets any out of this next couple, can use that Soul Unbound to also do quite a lot of work with that later into the game. Seeing the bot lanes rotate across the map, very important for this Grub setup. Light and Crisp get themselves towards this top side first. They get that first push in, only just 20 seconds out from that Grub spawn.
We are going to see actually JDG holistically ramping up around this Grub pit. Obviously 6 Grubs for them would be super huge, but we've seen some contests over these last couple games of this positioning. We are going to see Xiaohu out and ready to go. Does have his boots completed, but Tarzan and Weibo trying to get some vision out here just in case.
Important to note, the Breed doesn't have teleport, so he is down there on the bottom side, which does make this a 4v5 for Weibo. Or for JDG. Weibo, again, with only 4 members here, JDG just send all bodies to Grubs.
Okay, so, Weibo, are you contesting? No, it seems not. They choose to keep Breed elsewhere on the map. He could have been pushing in this tower. This seems to be a mistake. Before previous games in the series, they would at least contest, or they would get someone into a side lane. Now they've done neither.
They want to try to take a fight, it looks like here. The Grubs are slowly but surely going down.
They just walk out
still
top side.
Stuck in the pit. Weibo hovering over, but luckily Kanavi able to separate this fight as the bushes are there. Weibo getting a little bit mind controlled here, but maybe trying to catch out JDG on the back end. Xiaohu does still have fate sealed. They want to get a big combo off. He has a massive flank, but I think JDG realized now Nature's Grasp coming. Ruler tries to flash over, but cleanses. He's trying to get to safety. He's all by himself, and now he can fight back, though. The rest of JDG, they have been scattered to the wind, and Missing has made himself a martyr, as now fate sealed goes a little bit wide. Ruler sidestepping, bullet time across to try to get some damage back, but Ruler's taken down under turret, and Weibo strike true.
Weibo stopped JDG from coming back to their mid tower, and they pick up a couple of kills. We were worried about what was happening around the Grubs. They finally get something out of the play.
It was such a strange exchange, though. It just felt like Weibo were a little bit indecisive. Eventually, it turned into making a call to try and make a flank happen from Tarzan's angle, and they do get Ruler's summoner spells as well as, of course, the kill later on. So this next Dragon, if it does end up being a team fight, Ruler is gonna have to be so careful. Xiaohu, Crisp, both have flash, will likely have a warm-up for this next play as we look back at the replay.
Tarzan hits this vision ward. Of course, there's no wards around mid. They should know he's somewhere in this jungle because of that plant being hit, but he's still off a vision. The thing is, JDG want to protect their mid lane turret. It's not an easy retreat back here. Ruler flashes, maybe worried that the W would come straight into him, into a knockback, but he manages to just about get away.
I hate to also be critical of Micro, as I have to just hold my point.
Oh, Flandre in a little bit of trouble now. We're finally seeing what the Cassante can do, waiting for that Q3, but we'll not find it.
It did feel like Tarzan could have just twisted advanced Ruler again through the root and then kept him in place.
Dragon.
As a Dragon now being started.
Daisy, no! Daisy's gone, but a second dragon will be secured by Weibo, and that's a nice little stacking moment for them as well, but we will have a Rift Herald on the other side of the map in about for 35 seconds.
Okay, so now, two big things, one for each team in an all-important Game 5. 6 grubs on one side to JDG. Can they use that to open the map, get an insurmountable gold lead? Weibo, double dragons on a Cloud Rift, and I know that Cloud Rift has often been aligned. When you have a lot of melees, it can be very, very important. Dragon Soul Con could be very, very important.
Ring and spot out Crisp there. Ruler using that for some vision there. Love to see that here as well. Both of them, Ruler and Light, gonna have their first items, but honestly, Light has a much more proactive time with the Enchanted Crystal Arrows, and I love that the desk was bringing up some of the consistency in Light's history as well. When you look back to LNG, he might not have been in the top 3, but he's always in that conversation as a consistent carry for his teams, and here in this series, I think he's stepped up a lot.
Always on the fringe. On the fringe of Worlds here today. And he certainly stepped up a lot. 2-0 on this Ashe right now. Looking to continue to make some plays. On the Herald right now, Weibo are also looking for a potential play on the side, but Flandre, like you say, no Dominus, flash away, Ashe Arrow.
Oh, they're gonna target him down here. They have the approach velocity. Flandre doesn't really have an exit unless he uses slice and dice potentially here, as he will end up getting some distance, but the flash immediately comes through, and Light, he is no longer the lack of step up. He is the one that is making it known.
3-0 on the Ashe. There was a lane swap to try and help this top lane matchup from JDG. It hasn't really worked out for them the way they wanted. Chris maybe caught, but manages to just about get out of that. Light, 3-0 on the Ashe. So important for him. Very rarely been the main character AD carry of the LPL. This time, though, in such an important match, has the tools to make the difference.
See them actually try to pressure Xiaohu down here. There is a little bit of a hover down there as well, though. Weibo trying to keep consistent across the map. And speaking of, Light's going to pick up a side turret here as well, just funneling the gold into this guy. And that has been the conversation for Weibo. We've seen the times they faltered, they lack coordination around playing around Light.
And I think also, really importantly here, Xiaohu being very defensive in the other lane, making sure the JDG don't have easy access to him there as well. Using that Soul Unbound to go forwards onto the wave, ping back, stop JDG from just immediately pouncing. So, JDG, what's the plan? You're not exactly hitting turrets with the 6 grubs. We said that's something which you really need them to do. What's the plan? Such an important game. I mean, we can't overstate how important a game this is. It feels like they're lacking options right now.
Chris, a little bit of supportal combat here. You gotta get out of that fight. As the 3-person man setup from JDG was looking around this spot side, but it is going to be a situation where you can feel the tension on the Rift, right? We've had a couple things go Weibo's way, obviously, but JDG, I mean, they're in a position where they need to stay with their heads above water. We saw how impactful the Ivern was in their last game as well. Not going to have that early gold for himself here, but still a massive step up if they can get their composition aligned around these objective fights.
Yeah, and right now they are certainly head above water. I think the biggest thing for me is, you know, grubs are only as useful as you are ahead, right? Right now, if Weibo can continue to kind of just, you know, stave off these attacks, they might lose a tower here or there. They're getting very close to getting towards that Cloud Soul, and they just want to keep that Dragon stacking going.
Rule up. Using that Misfortune movement speed to great value there. Doesn't have to blow his summoners, still has both of them available now after coming off a cooldown from that earlier play from Tarzan around the grubs. Weibo, they have been oh so good at playing side lanes. They have been one of our side lane specialist teams. It feels like this is a comfort zone for them. Denying that 6 grubs, using the Herald in mid lane, starting to get themselves really onto these structures.
I mean, they're able to break down a lot of the outer towers of JDG here, and they'll try to get this mid lane. Just a little bit of a love tap, but it'll finally go down. That'll be 2 towers secured by Weibo holistically. Although Flandre will find Xiaohu over here, but he has the rest of his team. I think Xiaohu realized that now, and he will back away.
Risk it for a red buff. Xiaohu and the rest of Weibo just clearing out the vision on the top side. I expect them to return back down towards the bottom side where some of their control wards and vision is mostly based to, again, get that 3rd dragon stacking, deny JDG any kind of entrance in easily.
Yeah, I love how Weibo play this split map, playing all lanes, playing in such a way that they can stop the grubs on the other side, but also being safe. They're not leaving Xiaohu out to dry. They're not letting people randomly die across the map easily. They're getting good value out of the map, and this is so important. This feels comfortable.
And I also can't emphasize enough how difficult it is to play all 3 lanes at the same time, whilst effectively not actually losing anything. and arguably trading up in a lot of these circumstances right now. JDG are a little bit out of it in terms of the macro at this moment in time.
Big rotation towards the bot side. Breathe. Think he'll be safe here. Dragon spawning in just a few seconds. Most of our summoners are available. We have item spikes. This could be a very important fight if it's chose to be contested over.
Yeah, I think those first item spikes super important here as those Blade of the Rune Kings there. But we also have a second item spike for Light as he has the Runeans completed, giving him some serious teamfight potential. But I love this from Light. He is literally just taking advantage of the map state that JDG are giving him.
JDG are very desperate right now. They want to be here to start this Dragon, but now it's lent to lane assignments, not defending this mid-tier 2. Light's going to take a massive chunk out of it. Flandre is there to finally defend. But still, damage is done, and the rotation can come in from Weibo if they want it.
And again, Weibo really good at pulling JDG across the map. It's going to be a full inner turret. Light calls the bluff of JDG. JDG can't start the Dragon in time. They don't have a counterplate. They lose a mid turret for free, and will go back towards the Dragon now.
If this fight is positive for Weibo, this is a huge swing for JDG, and they're going to be on their back foot for a long time. That tier 2 mid, the way that Weibo are playing the game right now and playing the map state, JDG simply don't have a solid answer. They'll finally find an answer in this tier 1 on the bottom side, but it feels like crumbs in comparison to what Weibo are getting in return.
It is so tense. One game between both of these teams, the World Championship appearance. Weibo and JDG, they have gone the distance. A World Finalist, a World Semi-Finalist, multiple international champions across this rift. Only one team goes forwards.
Everything's so tense and so thick you could cut it with a butter knife. As we get to this Dragon setup there, it's actually JDG not feeling super confident moving forward. Chris had a hell of an angle, but he's by himself now as he's just getting burned down. Weibo, I mean, the alarm bells are starting to sing as Yagao picks up one. TP coming in, he's trying to stop him there, does end up doing so as well with the Q3. Enchanted Crystal Whale will go wide, but Tarzan hits that Nature's Grasp. It should connect onto Yagao, barely not able to there in the end. JDG, they barely make it away from the fight, but they actually turn it pretty positive.
Yeah, I mean, they get the pick onto Chris, but they've not really gained any terrain, and they're also losing this bot tier 1 because they had to go and catch out Crisp. And I love the decisiveness from Weibo. As soon as they noticed Flandre's teleport was cancelled, the return was almost there immediately, and at the end of the sequence, they'll finally pick up that third Dragon.
So, grand sequences of events. You have that mid lane in a turret, you have the Dragon. JDG get themselves that bot lane out of turret, but it does feel like Weibo are just playing the map just that little bit better. Doesn't have to matter if JDG can find themselves a big enough engagement. Weibo playing keep away just about well enough. This is a bit of a walk around the corner. She should have probably done that, Chris, but does lose his life for it. It's a lot of ults used, and luckily that teleport cancel comes through to make sure that it can't really be anything more than that from JDG.
Yeah, exactly. Baron's on the map now. 21 minutes into the game. And I mean, items actually, you know, for the carries right now, Yagao's actually got that Runeans over what Xiaohu's going towards on that second item. So they don't feel too bad about it. The other big gap really is just Breathe and topside. 2 items against that Black Cleave.
The soul point for Weibo. Yep. Talked about the growth to JDG. The gold, however, very close to this point in the game. As much as we're talking about Weibo playing the map well, this could all explode in a single fight. The tension here, the setup, so important. If there's one big enough combo, if Ivan does enough shielding onto an important carry to buy them that space and time to do damage, JDG could very well come back missing.
Oh, they actually checked Missing.
They want to run him down.
Unbreakable Will there down. That is a pretty big cooldown for Missing as the front liner of JDG.
You have to remember, I mean, it's Ashe ult for Alistar ult, and Ashe ult will come up way sooner than, than that ultimate from Missing, and it just reduces the amount of ability that Missing has to do things like face check, right? He's going to have to rely on Kanavi now to walk around with him and make sure he's keeping him topped up with the trigger seeds.
See a little bit of positioning around this Baron bit from Weibo. They're willing to start it up. They feel like they have a little bit of strength here. Yeah. 2.5 item spike for Light, maybe just the ticket. Xiaohu will have that fate sealed, ready to go. JDG surrounding.
Misfortune ultimate so critical here. Red side, but Misfortune ultimate over the wall could be everything. JDG, they're seeing it go down, Misfortune's gone off.
Xiaohu looking for a side lane pick.
We found him!
Got him! Maybe this just makes the difference. Xiaohu looking for the solo. Cannot get him. Yagao makes it out alive. Weibo, we're looking for a play on mid lane, but nothing else gonna come of it.
Fleet footwork kept Yagao alive, and I'm not even joking. I could see it even in the pit. Now though, topside contest continues. They're fighting over a bloody red buff.
Yeah, and Yagao can recall. He can teleport where he wants.
Oh my god, the big combo! Bullet time is not gonna be used just yet. They need the combo. They need Yagao here. Nature's Grasp Grass coming across as well. Crisp looking for the big engage. Yagao over the edge. So much tension here between these teams as Weibo turned back to the Baron.
And Weibo are doing that 4v5. It was Xiaohu still resetting in the bottom side. They had full vision on that teleport from Yagao. Now the Baron's being slid up again. The Scryer's orb will reveal it. What are Weibo going to do? A lot of ultimates have been blown at that exchange.
Crisp on the side here. Ruler, his ultimate could be so crucial. That bullet time is what I've got my eyes on.
Any setup matters. I mean, Weibo are going to commit to this. Crisp has a hell of a flank. Crisp, the world champion, trying to make something happen here. Missing by Z against Xiaohu. He wants to look back. Yagao does get out alive. Ultra Shock laser back. Missing overextended, though. Missing's in a little bit of trouble here as Xiaohu goes right back. And it's going to be Missing giving his life for it. And Light claims another kill. This means Weibo could potentially just do the Baron.
Weibo are killing JDG with 1,000 cuts. They're starting to take their tools away from them. Back to the Baron they go.
So many big names, so many big moments lying in these next little bits as JDG, they're trying to surround them a little bit. Maybe they just overextended themselves here too. Kanavi gets slowed down, does get out of that bait seal, but the enchanted crystal arrow from Light will claim down Kanavi. The general is down, and Weibo look to sink their teeth into JD Gaming. Here comes that Nature's Grasp. Light gets another one. Big lightning crash from Yagao.
He got a
makes the difference. They got the double CC, and Weibo, they are putting JDG down every step of the way. Missing sacrifices his life yet again, and this is looking like the Weibo that was foretold.
And how much can Weibo actually get? Ruler!
Ruler gets him!
He gets one back!
No way! He's gone, and the Weibo signaling will mean an ace for Weibo Gaming.
I think now with the health bars, they're not going to be able to quite crap open the base of JD Gaming, but man oh man, so close, and a delayed ace.
Weibo, they've just been doing this bit by bit, piece by piece, and they are not overreaching. They are just about going far enough to force something out of JDG and get themselves a crucial Baron, a handful of crucial kills as well. Going back towards the replay, you can see how terrified JDG are of Crisp on the flank. They try and search him out, but all they find is doom. It's a great arrow to follow up to, and the bullet time sadly just doesn't cut it there. We were looking for that ultimate to be big. All it was really just a desperation attempt to disengage. Doesn't quite work out, and Weibo find their moment to keep rolling forwards.
And it's just this, it clips both of them. Just the fact that Yagao just barely clipped by that bottom ultimate of Maokai. So unfortunate. Missing comes in, sacrifices his life for Ruler, but unfortunately the Cloud Rift gives Weibo just about enough movement speed to come in and walk this one down.
Weibo just get themselves that soul in the picture-in-picture as well. This might have just been enough to put Weibo into that game-controlling advantage.
6,000 gold plus, just about 5,000 now for Weibo, but they have the Baron buff. They can keep pushing, and they look. Ruler gets hit! Not again! Not like this! Every damn Weibo has its day, and that day is today!
That might just be it. Weibo still have the Baron buff.
No way!
Make it back to Worlds.
All the disappointment, all the question marks surrounding this team. 7 losses in a row could not keep them from Worlds as they take JDG down a peg. It's the last turret's gone, and Light, the man that has led the way, and it's Weibo as our LPL 4th seed.
Weibo find a light in the darkness. It is an arrow from the heavens which seals the deal. It takes 5 games, and Weibo will once again return to the World Championship.
No longer the world's ticket merchant for others. Breathe finally makes good on his track record, and Weibo make good on what was a fall from grace in these last best ofs.
Redemption, vindication, and pure elation for Weibo Gaming and for Breathe up in the top lane. Feels like he's finally righted that dreadful.
We decided the last of our representatives just there and then. 4 teams going forward to the World Championship. And I have to say, Weibo, they proved to me today that they are oh so worthy. They had that loss streak. They lost so many games, but it matters not.
bow down to the 4th seed of the LPL. They make all the wrongs right. They will represent the LPL on the world stage. And this team that found themselves in that final spot in 2023, now with a different roster, will make it right back to that precipice again and join the elite ranks of the world representatives.